The Women's March was this weekend, and no one seemed to really know about it. At least no one showed up. On the contrast, a pro-Second Amendment protest occurred in Virginia, protesting Ralph Northam's gun control policies. The media and celebrities spread a lot of lies about this protest, and Cocaine Mitch has released the rules for impeachment. And honestly, not much of a shock with those rules of impeachment. This is Gene, and you're listening to Dumbasses Talking Politics. We're on the eve of impeachment. And you can tell I'm celebrating with my Dodgers serape on. I'm feeling all freaking international and stuff. So let's talk about like real news, because for the next 48 hours, we're probably going to be talking a lot about impeachment. And that's going to require a lot of video and downloads and things like that. So here's a question for you. What if you held a protest and nobody showed up? Would you make a sound in the woods, or would a bear crap in the... I don't know how that would actually go, but that's exactly what happened with the Women's March this weekend. Did you even know there was a Women's March this weekend? Well, apparently the members of the Women's March also didn't know, because it was a little less than they thought. They just didn't have a lot of people showing up. Carmen Perez, who is the only Women's March co-founder left at the group after they've just decimated the leadership for anti-Semitism, told USA Today that she hoped to see protesters for the Women's March re-energized and ready to go, but it didn't exactly happen. The main marches actually happened in Washington, D.C., Chicago, and Los Angeles, but the crowds didn't show up. They didn't materialize. As a matter of fact, police did not even need to put up tape around them to keep them kind of contained. In Los Angeles, they barely filled a park. In Washington, D.C., they got a permit for 10,000 people to come in, and they were well below that. In Chicago, well, Chicago was kind of a mess, okay? Here's the thing. They had said that, or Perez had said that most of the reason they were having problems with getting people at the protests was probably because of protest burnout. Or maybe everyone got jobs because the economy is so good. I don't know. I'm just saying. Maybe I'm being a little sexist, misogynist. I don't know. Whatever. She said that you've got competing organizations like MoveOn.org and a lot of different organizations. People are just tired of protesting. Okay. But it also seems like the organization did take a real hit in the last few years. There are three main co-founders, Linda Sarsour, Tamika Mallory, and Bob Bland, had nothing but problems with anti-Semitism. As a matter of fact, Linda Sarsour had actually joined up the Women's March with the very anti-Semitic Nation of Islam. And you could say anti-Semitic, you could say terrorist, or whatever. The news media, of course, did their best to make it look like it was something that it wasn't. They said highly energetic. I saw the videos. They didn't look highly energetic. They looked like they were there dancing around. Half of them looked like they were trying to figure out what was going on. But here's the thing. I love the Women's March. I do. Because I'm really entertained by it. I can't lie. I think it is just a lot of fun to watch. Because, how shall I say this in a politically correct way? They're so stupid. I swear to God. So, I have got, I trust me, I can't show you There are about 5 videos I would have liked to show you. There's just no way. I can't. Little 8-year-olds cussing at President Trump and all this thing. Well, first off, let's go to one thing. One of the things that this gal learned. Hold on, what's her name? One of the things that Perez learned here is that one of the biggest problems the Women's March is having is finding a symbol, is finding something to grip onto. At one point, the Women's March was about climate. What's the other thing called? Pro-abortion. They called it some reproductive rights. That's what they actually called it. And something else. I can't remember. Misogyny or whatever. Immigration, climate, and reproductive rights. And as you can imagine, Perez is a naturalized Mexican. She actually barely speaks English. We're going to get into that in a few minutes. The problem the Women's March is having, because Saussure was in it, and Mallory and Bland were in it, they were actually very good organizers. Perez, no, not so much. And one of the things the Women's March has lost, the Women's March has lost meaning. In Chicago, which was the actual largest grouping, they were protesting wages. They were protesting women's wages. They were protesting housing. They were protesting the Iran war. Los Angeles was also protesting the Iran war, which has nothing to do with the Women's March. They've really lost their way. Okay, they've absolutely lost their way. Now, in Washington, D.C., as I was getting to, and I forgot to add that whole stuff, they actually had, this gal Perez was trying to organize a chant. This is why I love the Women's March. Because this chant was just completely asinine. And they started with the chant, and the full 9 minutes, and this is from Grabian. If you're on YouTube, assign to Grabian, greatest montage videos out there. Greatest conservative montage videos. Grabian released this video, and it was just ridiculous. It was about a 9-minute video, and these people, you couldn't understand them, first off. So it was like, you saw half the protesters were like, huh? And they just started moving, and you could tell they really didn't know what was going on. As a matter of fact, I had to listen to the video just to get the first 4 lines of their chant. I've got it right here. So I'll tell you what some of it was, but I honestly cannot even recall what a lot of it. Whoops, that light is really bothering me. So it was really, really funny. And like I said, I would have liked to shown you more videos, because there were a ton of videos. There was one gal flipping the double bird and saying, F this, F that, F that. She was probably 50 years old, had flaming pink hair, obviously wasn't happy with anything. I can't show that because of all the F words. And there was a couple of little girls sitting on a wall at the Women's March holding up F this and F that. And so when the reporter came up to them and he interviewed them, they started saying exactly what was on the signs. F this, F that. These are 8-year-old little girls. This is what their parents are teaching them. Now, Fleckus has a video. Fleckus on YouTube has a video. I haven't seen it yet. I got a feeling it's going to be a guess. But I only had so much time to actually do this. So let's listen to these geniuses on the Women's March. And let's listen to what they actually have to say in song.
Patriarchy is our judge that imprisons us at birth, and our punishment is the violence you don't see. Patriarchy is our judge that imprisons us at birth, and our punishment is the violence you don't see. It's femicide, impunity for my killer. It's our disappearances. It's rape. And it's not my fault, not where I was, not how I dress. And it's not my fault, not where I was, not how I dress. And it's not my fault, not where I was, not how I dress. And it's not my fault, not where I was, not how I dress. And the rapist was you. And the rapist is you.
So there you go. It's rape. I guess so. I have absolutely no idea if you understood any of that. The first 4 lines of this chant I had to actually listen to about 4 or 5 times, and I heard someone else say it. It said in the first. Well, let's build up to that. So, how did this whole thing? Because you heard some bizarre sounds there, right? So essentially, one gal had a kazoo. Yeah, a kazoo. I guess she took her kid to Chuck E. Cheese and got a kazoo. I didn't even know you could buy a kazoo. And this was a cheap plastic kazoo. You could tell by that's a kazoo. And by the way, what did she need the kazoo for? I did it exactly the way she did it. And then there was a bunch of Indian drums in the background, Native American drums, whatever you want to call it. Then they started beating the drums. Then the broad blew her whistle. And then they started with their crap. And basically this was, patriarchy is our judge that imprisoned us at birth. And our punishment is the violence you don't see. Those were the first 4 lines, or 2 stanzas, because they said that twice, 4 times is essentially what they said. Everything else, I had no idea what they said. If you do, please list it in the comments. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll look it up. I don't care. It was terrible. But if you're watching the video on YouTube, you can actually see them dance, and the crowds, half of them are laughing. So yeah, this is really hard to take seriously. But this is what I love about them. I swear to God, they're just so stupid. My question is, you guys are trying to accomplish what by doing this? It just looks dumb. You got four fat women dancing, one playing a kazoo, and then you got a bunch of women smacking a drum. And watch the 9-minute. And by the way, the gal that was leading it, I guess that's Perez. You couldn't understand a damn thing she said. As a matter of fact, a couple times she said, well, no, you lead the English version because I don't understand it. Just watch the 9-minute video. Go to dumbassestalkingpolitics.com or go to YouTube and click Grabian. That's where I got the clip from. Grabian is fantastic when it comes to this stuff. So there was another protest. This protest started on Monday, which is today for me, will be tomorrow for a lot of people who listen to this podcast or view the Vcast. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. Governor Ralph Northam, Mr. either KKK or blackface, we don't know which, who's a Democrat, had declared a state of emergency late last week and beefed up security around the Capitol. And one of the things he threw out there was no one is allowed to bring guns through the Capitol. Now, I'm from California. You can't carry a gun at all in California. They've made California absolutely miserable. But in Virginia, you're allowed to carry a long gun wherever you want to carry a long gun. Has to be showing, but you're allowed to carry a fully loaded long gun. That's an AR-15, any type of hunting rifle, anything like this. Well, the pro-Second Amendment activists saw this as a problem, and they're absolutely correct. They saw this as a problem for a reason. Because they said this is the first infringement of our rights, the Second Amendment. So they decided to hold a protest. So what they did is they decided to go in Virginia, set up a protest, which, by the way, was larger than a lot of the Women's March protests. And they all carried their weapons. AR-15s, sniper rifles. A lot of them were dressed in camos. Now, everything they did was legal. There was nothing illegal. As a matter of fact, the police departments over there supported them because they did not believe that taking their guns was constitutional. So you had the sheriff department over there. You had the police departments over there talking to the gun owners because they were not going to arrest them. They weren't going to do a thing because they thought this was illegal. A lot of sheriffs, believe it or not, believe that, we're here for the Second Amendment. We're not here for anything else. We're here to protect the Constitution, and they weren't going to tread on the rights of these people. So, you can imagine, you've got 10,000 people, 8,000 of them carrying weapons, walking around, pissed off that people want to take their weapons away. So guess what happened in the 6-7 hours of their protest? Nothing. You had a few white supremacists, and they were quickly sent off. The police didn't have a big presence over there. As you'll hear from our intellectual leader in a few minutes. Because nothing happened, and if anything did happen, you got 8,000 NRA members with fully armed weapons. They're going to take care of business, as they've always done. Well, they did do some things. I'll take that back. We can't make them completely innocent. They did do some bad things. The first thing they did that was bad was they actually did carry American flags. The racists. And they did carry the "Don't Tread on Me" flag. That's the one with the snake that says "Don't tread on me." The racists. They did carry the Betsy Ross flag, which Colin Kaepernick told us was racist. They did chant the Pledge of Allegiance, the racists, and they sang the Star Spangled Banner, which we all know is racist. And they carried the guns, the terrorists. NBC reported incorrectly, falsely, to the point that this individual, Ben Collins, had to actually delete his tweet. Quote, "Reporters covering tomorrow's white nationalist rally in Virginia, I'm absolutely begging you, verify information before you send it out tomorrow, even if it's very sensational rumor you heard from a cop. Don't become a hero in neo-Nazi propaganda circles with made-up stuff." This was not a white nationalist rally. It was a pro-Second Amendment rally. As a matter of fact, here's something wild and crazy. There weren't just white people there. There weren't. Lots of Hispanics carrying guns. Lots of blacks carrying guns. And none of them got shot. There was no lynching. I'm absolutely shocked. There was no lynching. Well, there was a video going around where these guys carrying their weapons, and basically it's the same. They carry their weapons like the military does. You have your AR-15 or whatever rifle, and it's tied to your chest, and basically you hold it so that the muzzle is pointing down. And they were walking all in camos. There were definitely some military. Okay, and this video was commented on left and right. Alyssa Milano, who is the intellectual leader of the, I guess, acting guild? I don't know. Basically, if you're an intellectual leader of actors, it means you don't have a job and you're got to do something. So the best thing to do when you're an intellectual leader who happens to be an actress or actor, you go into politics. This is what she said. This is what's happening in Virginia right now. Trump's America, pound, I stand with Virginia. And these guys are these guys are basically marching together to the protest, wearing camos, wearing basically, kind of camo. They were wearing like beiges and greens. They weren't necessarily in camo, with guns on their chests, walking to the deal. They didn't shoot anybody. They just were walking to the event. That same film was commented by Pam Keith, who I guess is a reporter, and on Twitter, and she said, quote, "So, I see a bunch of incel ammo-sexuals have gathered in Virginia. While I believe the right to people to protest peacefully, I reject threatening goon squads. Pound, stand with Virginia." Incel. Here's a newsflash. There were a ton of women there too. These guys weren't incels. They had wives. Do you know why? The wives know how to shoot too. Do you know why I will never beat my girlfriend or whatever she is right now? Because I taught her how to shoot and she'll shoot me. I taught her how to protect herself. They act like there was nothing but white men at this rally. That's not true. There were men, women, there were whites, blacks, Asians, Hispanics. It was far more diverse than an Antifa rally, I can tell you that. So here's Danielle Campamore. She's got a French name, so you already know she's kind of screwed up. So she said this, quote, in a tweet, quote, "White privilege is having the freedom to walk around in public with shotguns and AR-15s and handguns strapped to your chest like effing a-holes and not getting gunned down by a single cop. Pound Virginia rally." So let's cover that first. They're not being gunned down by cops because they're not pointing anything at cops. They're not being gunned down by cops because cops already know they're allowed to carry the weapons. They're not breaking laws. I guarantee you, if the whitest guy in Virginia walked into a 7-Eleven and held up one of those guns, he'd be gunned down by a cop. Stupid statement. So let's continue. These people literally walking around in camo and body armor. There was no body armor. They were wearing ammo vests, which are just vests that hold extra ammo. Hunters wear those vests. I did not see any body armor. None. I did not see any body armor. And like 7 different guns strapped to their person. I didn't see someone with 50 guns on their person. They usually had a rifle. That was about it. Maybe a sidearm with the rifle, which, by the way, all is legal. All with the intent to and the sole purpose of intimidating people. No. They weren't intimidating people. They were intimidating Ralph Northam. Here's what's really crazy that these freaking people don't understand. The Second Amendment is there for a reason. All these reporters talk about, we've got First Amendment rights. We've got First Amendment rights. We have the right to speak. We have the right to do all this stuff. Well, here's a freaking newsflash. The reason the Founding Fathers, and it wasn't quite the Founding Fathers, for example, you're not going to find in the Federalist Papers, you're not actually going to find anything about the Second Amendment in the Federalist Papers, because the Second Amendment came after. The reason is because the Second Amendment was supposed to protect the First Amendment. That's why a lot of conservatives consider the Second Amendment more important than the First Amendment. Because without the Second Amendment, the First Amendment will be taken away, and we see it today. I think it's absolutely insane if you sit back and you tell me they're trying to shut us up. What's stopping us? Why do the Democrats want to take away our guns and take away our ability to speak? Not Democrats, excuse me. Not liberals, not Democrats. Why does the left want to take away our guns and take away our right to say things that we believe? I don't think I've said anything really bad, but they want to shut me down. They want to shut Ben Shapiro down, Dan Bongino down, Matt Walsh down. They did shut down people who are kind of insane. Why do they want to do that? And why do they need to take our guns away? They need our guns away because someone like me, who's armed, would never allow them to do something like that. These people walked around with the guns not to intimidate the scared yellow belly liberals. They did it to scare Ralph Northam, to prevent him from committing the tyranny that the Constitution pisses on. What does the Constitution say? A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Ralph Northam is infringing on the right to bear arms. And why these people don't get it? You know what? Read a book. And by the way, this actually has the Constitution and Bill of Rights in it. So it's not just the Federalist Papers, and it's a phenomenal version. It is a phenomenal version. But that's the reality, is that these people don't. But so when Democrats can't win by reason, what do? They do what AOC did. They lie. So what does AOC have to say about this? Because God knows we need to hear from her. Because she's so... I want to say smart. I can't do it. So let's hear what AOC actually has to say about the Second Amendment protests in Virginia.
That the United States was founded on, including racism, but also including the protection of capital over human beings. And, another thing that I've been really thinking and sitting with today is that there's this gun rights protest that's happening down in Richmond.
Right.
And
on MLK Day.
On MLK Day. But here's the image that has struck with me the most about that, is that when we go out and march for the dignity and the recognition of the lives of people like Freddie Gray and Eric Garner, the whole place is surrounded by police in riot gear without a gun in sight. And here are all of these people flying Confederate flags with semi-automatic weapons, and there's almost no police officers at that protest. So who or what are our institutions protecting from who?
Right.
And that image conveys it all.
Got it.
Conveys it all.
I want to take you back to your point about organizing, because I think this actually goes...
This woman is such an effing liar. So let's break down. Let's break down. And I don't know if I can even cover everything that she breaks down. And she is, without a doubt, the most annoying human being in the world. Now, I'm not saying do any violence to her or anything. I'm just saying she's just, God, she lies. She's a freaking liar. And she's becoming more and more popular, which drives me absolutely insane. So let's take a look. The place wasn't covered with Confederate flags. As a matter of fact, U.S. flags overdid Confederate flags 20-1. I was watching videos. I didn't see one Confederate flag. There were a couple of stickers I saw here and there, but those stickers were still American flags. The reality was this was not a white supremacist or alt-right rally. As a matter of fact, when the alt-right, first off, the alt-right was caught. There was a group of alt-righters that were actually caught before they actually showed up at this event, and they were prevented to showing the event. And there is video of the alt-right actually making a big stink, and the protesters, the pro-Second Amendment protesters, sent them away. So this whole thing with the alt-right is crap. There was no alt-right there. These were people who owned guns. They were NRA members. They were compliant. They didn't do anything wrong. Next, Martin Luther King would have never wanted to overturn the Second Amendment or anything in the Constitution. He was a liberal, but he was a liberal in the classical sense. He wanted to see change in the country. Now, a lot of right-wingers will sit there and tell you that Martin Luther King, he was a conservative. No, he wasn't. He was not a conservative. But he was not left-wing. He loved W.E.B. Du Bois was a liberal. He was not a conservative, but he wasn't left-wing. He loved the country, and he wanted black people to be treated, to be allowed in to the mainstream. That's happened. How do we know this? Because if you go to that march, there were a bunch of black people who kept saying, I'm black, I want my guns. I want my guns to protect myself. Freddie Gray, I hate the way they bring it. The other guy she talked about, I don't know a lot about. He broke his neck in a police car. Yeah. Freddie Gray was a victim of regulation. Freddie Gray was the guy who was selling cigarettes, single cigarettes on the streets. The police tried to arrest him. Now, Freddie Gray was a big guy. Okay? Big guy. He was like 300 pounds. And the police said, you can't sell cigarettes. We need to give you a ticket. They just wanted to give him a ticket. We're not talking... They were going to arrest him. They wanted to give him a ticket. He started giving problems, which is the other problem here. Blacks think they have more leeway than whites do because of all the race things that Democrats bring up. So Democrats put all these regulations. Blacks break those regulations. Cops, which, by the way, in New York, where Freddie Gray died, are not all black, are not all white. There's a lot of black, Hispanic, Asian cops. Had to give him a ticket. He started fighting the cops. The cops were going to arrest him. He had a heart attack and died. I'm sorry, this is not a Freddie Gray moment. Freddie Gray does not prove racism. It proves that these stupid effing regulations are bad. Okay, so give me a break with Freddie Gray. Don't even start with the guy in St. Louis. That guy was a thug. That guy attacked a cop. He should have been shot. No police officers at the protest. This is another thing that really chaps my hide. There were lots of police officers at the protest. Here's the problem. The police officers at the Second Amendment protest believed in what the protesters were doing. Virginia is a very pro-Second Amendment state. Extremely pro-Second Amendment. You had pictures of a black cop talking to a white protester who had a gun, who had a rifle on his chest. And he wasn't going to arrest him. He just was talking to him. You had high levels, high-ranking government police supporting the Second Amendment protesters, and even said they were not going to push Northam's law because it violated the Constitution. Because here's the thing. When a police officer makes an oath, he makes an oath to the Constitution. He makes an oath to the law. He doesn't make an oath to a freaking racist governor wearing blackface and everything. It's garbage. Here's the thing. Antifa has a protest where they're blocking traffic, they're threatening people, they're intimidating people, they're beating people up. Antifa's given a pass. You had a bunch of guys who were armed, who just believe in this country, who believe in the Second Amendment, walk up and say, no, we're not going to do this anymore. We're not going to listen to these crazies. And no violence. Nobody was shot. What a shock. You mean to tell me the gun that I have in this thing up here hasn't shot anyone? No, it hasn't. I haven't needed to. Matter of fact, I can defend myself. I can use my hands. But that doesn't mean that if my girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, whatever she is, and I'm with her and I'm with her kids, there needs to be defense. I'll use my gun, not think twice about it. Here's the thing. This always remains true, and no one can argue this. If you make owning a firearm illegal, only criminals will have firearms. And that brings us to a very interesting story. England, which already has the highest level, London specifically, because they got that moron as the mayor over there, has banned knives. You now cannot carry a kitchen knife in London. Why? Because people have been stabbing other people with these knives. Remember, well, maybe I didn't podcast about it, but there's a time that, okay, are we going to ban cars because people hit other people? Are we going to ban knives because people are stabbing other people? In England, they are doing exactly that. It's not curbing the violence. London, which has the same population as New York, has more crime than New York. Stabbings, murders. They don't have gun control. They do have gun control. Highest gun control in the world. You could almost make it a parody of the United States. It's disgusting. I would consider it, even though a lot of people said it's a parody of the United States, I don't consider it a parody of the United States. I consider it a stark warning. We could end up like this. Crime's not going to go down with gun control. It's not. It could go up. Criminals are always going to carry guns. Anyone think criminals aren't going to carry guns? You're crazy. So think about that. And let's talk about the final thought here. We may not be going into real news in the next few days. That's okay. We got the impeachment thing, which is crap. Hopefully in 48 hours, this whole thing's going to be over. No, not hopefully. I hope we do have witnesses. I think it'd be great to see witnesses. But do you notice the difference between conservative rallies and left-wing rallies? I want you to do me a favor. Watch a Trump rally. Then watch a Democratic rally. Watch Joe Biden. Watch Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren. Donald Trump, they have a lot of fun. They're really supportive. They're really excited. Biden, Sanders, Warren, whoever shows up. A Trump rally, people are screaming. They're having a great time. They're friendly. No one's getting beaten up. Warren, Biden, Sanders? The presidential candidates are threatening their people. Remember when Biden challenged some 90-year-old to a frickin' push-up contest? Called him a liar? You don't see that in a Trump rally. Now look at an Antifa rally. Look at the Women's March. Then look at the pro-Second Amendment rally, where everyone is armed. People are friendly. People are talking. Police are talking to the inhabitants at the Second Amendment rally. Whereas the left-wing rallies, they're calling them freaking pigs. They want them banned. They want them eliminated. They want laws destroyed. This is a big difference. I'm glad I'm a conservative. And conservatism has changed. Not by much. Reagan was hysterical. We had a bad one in Nixon. But Reagan was hysterical. He was a lot of fun. Oh my God, I'm so far over the time limit. So let's get into the last story. The last story is Cocaine Mitch decided to release the impeachment rules. Nothing special in the rules. He basically said, okay, we're going to have 24 hours of debate about each side is going to be able to debate. That's going to be 12 hours for each. It's going to go over 2 days. So the Democrats can sit and debate and the Republicans can sit and debate. He also had something called a kill switch, which, by the way, they had that in the Clinton, which means if a majority of people say, let's enact the kill switch, they'll start voting right then and there and they'll release or impeach. Again, you need 66 senators. Not going to happen. Waste of freaking time. But it is exciting. Tomorrow is going to be exciting for the first, 15, 20 minutes. Then it's going to get slower. It's going to get boring. And then we're going to be watching nothing but process. And I'm probably going to be talking about this for the next few days. I cannot make a prediction. I personally think they're probably going to have witnesses. I think the witnesses are not going to be good on either side. I think Trump has done some things that were not great. Okay, he's not exactly the calming force in the world, but the Democrats definitely do not want their witness there. They keep saying they want this Lev Parnas to testify. This guy has already gotten into trouble today. I don't know what happened. I just saw it on Fox News. the Dems have absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, it's still the same thing. There are no laws broken in the articles. Obstruction of Congress is not a statute. There's no such thing of obstruction of Congress. There's no such thing as obstruction of power or abuse of power. No such thing. So it's a waste of time. So anyway, let's finish this off so I can at least keep this listenable. You can follow me on Twitter at RunninFool, RUNNINFEWL. You can follow you can download or listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and Podcast Addict. You can listen to the podcast or view the podcast on the view the VCast on YouTube. Show notes, full videos, and links are located at www.dumbassestalkingpolitics.com. Please subscribe, rate, and comment. I will answer. This is Gene, and you've listened to Dumbasses Talking Politics.